This briefing is from file A56-7W, classified top secret. Subject is AIRWOLF, a Mach 1 Plus attack helicopter with the most advanced weapons system in the air today. It has been hidden somewhere in the western United States by its test pilot, Stringfellow Hawk. Hawk has promised to return AIRWOLF only if we can find his brother Sinjin, an MIA in Vietnam. We suspect that Archangel, deputy director of the agency that built AIRWOLF, is secretly helping Hawk in return for Hawk's flying AIRWOLF on missions of national concern. Stringfellow Hawk is 34, a brilliant combat pilot and a recluse since his brother's disappearance. His only friend is Dominic Santini, whose air service is the cover for their government work. With Hawk and Santini flying as a team at speeds rivaling the fastest jets, backed by unmatched firepower, AIRWOLF is too dangerous to be left in unenlightened hands. Finding it is your first priority.
Lazor Comb.
Mailman, come in, mailman. This is hang time on approach. Over.
Roger that. Hang time. We got the payload. Over.
Roger Wilco. We'll see you back at base, and Godspeed, mailman.
In the pipe, 5x5.
Welcome to episode 91 of the Lazor Comb podcast, the show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV with a fine-tooth laser. I am one of your hosts, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Hangtime Siege. Call sign, Hangtime.
And that's right. I'm what was that? Assistant. Hold on here. I'm acting sub-lieutenant. Neo Mailman Cal. And yes, I am aware that's a Navy.
It's okay.
That's our name. We're from Canada. Things work a little differently here.
Yes, I guess I should have referred to myself as Lieutenant Colonel then, being that we're Canadian.
Why are the lieutenants and also lieutenants?
Why do we have lieutenants?
What the hell is lieutenant?
Why don't we have lieutenants?
Next thing you know, there's ambidextrous tenant.
All I'm saying is it's a slippery slope.
To the alt-right, alt-left pipeline. Yeehaw.
Yeah. Speaking of laying pipe, this week on the Lazor Comb podcast, we're doing another one of, well, this is my pick. It's a show from the early to mid 80s called AIRWOLF.
Surprised this was a real show.
This is a show that I vaguely remember from when I was a little kid. Now that I think about it, it's mostly the theme song that I remember, and I think that I feel like when I was a little kid, I just watched the intro of this. Because
I'm glad that you're honest.
Because let me tell you, the theme song and the intro to this show are sick.
It's a good length. It's hype. Shows you what the most hype moments of the show, and it's what more do you want?
Yeah, what more do you want? Again, well, don't need to mouth
not
it
a
too
good
much.
show.
Don't need to mouth the theme too much because, well, the listeners would have just heard it in all its glory.
I really like to add to his character that Mr. Wolffe himself plays the cello. Or is
Yeah,
that standing?
that
Yeah, cello, right?
yeah.
Just
Yeah, that's
randomly, they just show him
just
like stringing this.
yeah, just stringing along, playing the cello.
It's so random, but it's like kind of beautiful.
Well, it kind of reminds me a bit of Nightman, where Nightman, when he's not a Nightman of the night, he is a saxman of the night.
Sax man. I forgot about that. That's right. He plays it like
Yeah,
jazz bars and
yeah. He has. I think he owns a bar, and he's part of the nightly band, and he plays the sax.
yeah. And here's Mr. Wolf. All he's got is this $1 trillion experimental jet powered attack helicopter.
Yes, so here on the Laser Comb podcast, we are finally identifying as an attack helicopter because we're going to be, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about Airwolf. And what episode of Airwolf did we land on? It was episode 9, first season episode, Mad Over Miami, which originally aired on March 24th, 1984. I wasn't even born yet. I did not exist.
We didn't exist when this came out.
No.
And here we are.
Here we are.
300 years later.
40 years, like just over 40 years later. We're talking Airwolf.
So now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm starting to realize that we're either we're given requests here on the Laser Comb podcast.
Yep.
I feel like there's nostalgia or hype for a theme song, but the people that recommend the shows don't sit and watch through any amount of the shows. They're just like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Check out the trailer.
Okay.
Because then when we report, sometimes they go, oh man, I don't know. I've never actually watched it.
Really?
That's right. That's my theory. That's my theory.
Oh, well, listeners, let us know.
Because of this. How much of the shows have you requested that, but you've actually watched? Articulate podcaster me.
Well, remember, this wasn't a listener pick. This was me.
Oh, you son of a bitch. No. Didn't even and now he's admitted it on camera that he probably didn't actually.
That I probably didn't actually watch the show.
So you're
I
forgiven.
just watched the
You're
intro.
forgiven.
I'm calling myself out here. And well, tell me, Cal, what the hell is Airwolf?
Oh, I'm going to tell you what Airwolf is. Okay, so the great thing about the 70s and 80s TV shows like this is it tells you in the fucking intro just what you're getting, right? But basically, Homie is a test pilot for a secret research $1 trillion helicopter that can outmaneuver fighter jets.
Yep. I'm sold.
You're sold, right?
I like helicopters.
But wouldn't you know it, his brother goes MIA in Vietnam, and Mr. Airwolf, Benjamin Wolf.
In the Discord, when I was talking to Cal earlier about this show, I was referring to the lead guy as Colonel Airwolf.
Colonel Wolf. He's like, hey, where's my brother? I'm gonna hold this hostage.
Yeah.
And the government's like, oh, that's a big no-no. We need to go after you. So kind of got like an A-team thing going, right? Like he's a renegade, right? But he has some friends, Mr. Wolf. He has other pilot, old man dude that we're going to see a lot in the show. You had called him. 1 second. Let me bring up the real character name. Names that we shared here.
Pilot McHale.
Pilot McHale.
Because I'll tell you the reason why I called him Pilot McHale is because this is the main dude from McHale's Navy. And whenever I'm watching okay, folks, I watched this episode 3 times. And we'll get into the reasons
how
why.
much he okay, well,
we'll get into the reasons. We'll get into the reasons why, but I watched this episode 3 times. Every time I saw this guy, all I could think of was McHale's Navy. I'm sorry, but that's He is forever typecast as Admiral McHale.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So he's in this show. He's Pilot McHale.
He's Pilot McHale. Yeah. What more do you want?
And so, and so Colonel Airwolf is working for. He's technically like on the run, but because he stole an Airwolf, the attack helicopter, but he's worked out a deal with who I like to call Big Boss and Honey.
Yeah.
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 With Big Boss and Honey, who is Big Boss is like some like high up in the CIA who uses Colonel Airwolf and the Airwolf attack helicopter to send him on off the books Black Ops missions.
Yeah.
And in exchange for doing that, he's helping Colonel Airwolf try and track down his missing brother, who is like a POW in Vietnam.
And evade capture.
Yeah.
So it's like he's working for a section of the US government that's like off or semi on the books while evading the main US government.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. Yeah. Following.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the basic plot of Airwolf. Simple enough.
So he's got old man McHale as his best friend who also has a helicopter.
Yeah.
And also goes on missions sometimes. And then you got 70s Big Boss.
Yeah. And his right-hand woman, who I've dubbed Honey. Big Boss and Honey.
This is from the era where that probably, like, you could have just told me that was her actual name on the show and I'd believe you.
Yeah. I mean, if
empowered female character, better call them Sugar or Honey or
yeah, so that's the basic gist of what Airwolf is as a show.
Sounds pretty rad.
It does sound pretty rad. Unfortunately, and also I mentioned I mentioned a little bit about the cast, like the Pilot McHale is the McHale's Navy dude. I actually really like the cast in this show. The main guy is great.
I actually thought that the main out of everything, I like the main cast.
Yeah, like the main guy, Colonel Airwolf. He, the actor who plays him, I'm not sure who he is, but like I really like the way he delivers lines in a very like steely, like stern manner, and I really like that.
Which is easy to do wrong.
Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah, but I don't know.
He does it convincingly.
If anything, I want to get to know the characters. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy who plays Big Boss, I think, is really cool.
I don't know what's going on with him. He just seems cool.
Yeah,
so there's a character who has like really old school, like eyeglasses, right? But one of them is
blacked out.
Blacked out,
like an eye patch,
like representative of like a modern like eye patch. I think it's pretty fucking cool. Like he needs glasses already. Can't wear glasses and an eye patch.
So the cast is great. The show has a great intro. It has great music in general. I think the attack helicopter itself looks really cool.
I think it looks cool. Yeah. I love how they just speed up the frames to okay, so
and when
somewhere before
when Airwolf is actually in action, the show's pretty exciting.
Yeah, they do this thing where they just play. I don't know if they use like less frames and then speed it up, but they speed up the shots of Airwolf and add sound effects like to imply it's like using its jet powers and moving away, but it's just sped up footage of the helicopter flying normally.
Yeah.
What was it we were reviewing where there was slow motion, but what it actually they were just doing were playing way less frames per second, and it annoyed the fuck out of us. Oh, what was? I'll never remember. We've done a million of these.
Yeah.
Is it an animated?
No, it was a live action show. I just can't remember what it was now.
Was it The Magicians? No,
it was. Yeah, I don't know. Listeners, if you remember what we're talking about, let us know.
The funniest thing, our new magicians quote, our terminology, that didn't even come when we reviewed The Magicians.
No. We were reviewing the
came
Dresden
from
Files.
The Dresden Files.
Also, one of
he's
our
dead.
listeners in the Discord actually made a GIF of that, and I gotta say, thank you very much, because that was probably one of my
Nick Cage delivering the line from
yeah. That's probably one of my proudest moments as a content creator. Honestly, is someone actually like making a meme out of something that I said. It's
that
pretty
we
rad.
said, or like fan art. I think the
Yeah.
first time I was like, oh wow, what the heck? It was I don't know if should reach out to them. Bemused Horseman.
It was Cone Killer Confusor who
Or was
did
it
the
no? Yeah, I'm sorry.
who did the Air Doctor
They
fan
did
art for Reboot.
because we were all talking and they were talking about Hair Doctor, and I said Air Doctor, or it
You
didn't
said-
pick up the H, or it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, and
I can't remember. I either said Air Doctor or what did I say? I don't know.
I think you
But
said
then-
Air Doctor, and I thought it was funny, and then we all went on a bit
Like Air
talking-
Jordans.
Yeah, like Air Jordan went on a bit of him like doing like a slam dunk.
That's right, Cone Killer. Yeah, I should reach out and say hey. Or if they happen to be watching this. I think they were mostly there for the reboot stuff though, right?
Actually, he just messaged me on Instagram like a couple hours ago.
Oh, well, hello. But yeah, the Hair Doctor, like Air Doctor slamming the basketball with his tootsies, and where does that shake go? Sure, it escapes.
Let's see. Oh yeah, he wants us to. By the way, he wants us to review a show called Regular Show, which I've never even heard of.
Oh, I've always wanted to watch that.
Yeah. So I told him we'd probably do that for episode 93.
Ooh.
So not the next episode, but the one after. The next episode, I'm kind of. Next episode, I kind of want to push ahead another Patreon pick, just because it's something I actually really want to watch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll get to that at the end there. Stay tuned to see what one of our patrons has picked for us to watch.
Yeah, it's something I'm pretty stoked about. Anyway, so all of those things about Airwolf are really cool.
They are. We're out of cool things.
The rest of Airwolf, unfortunately, is a very boring show with characters having very long, boring conversations about boring topics.
And it fills a 50-minute time slot, folks.
To be fair, the last like 5 minutes of that is the end credits. And the first like 3 minutes is like the opening credits, and then the like little like blurb.
So you got 40-minute show is what you're telling me here.
Blurb telling us what the show is actually about, which is what this episode of the podcast began with. So,
and you've jostled into my brain that there were shows that I watched just the intro of, and then quickly became disinterested when the actual like show was on.
Little House on the Prairie.
Yes, that was. We're just old enough to know what Little House on the Prairie is, but not. Sorry, we're just young enough to have barely caught it to know what it is, but not old enough to have ever watched it. That's how you tell how old.
Well, I mentioned this on the last episode of the podcast, but my mom watched that show so goddamn much that
Mom did too.
I've seen.
You know what it's about? I mean,
Yeah.
It's about a family that lives in a little house on the prairie. But
yes, it's about Charles Ingalls and his family as they move to a new farm in like Montana or something, and it's about like their like God-fearing adventures in like the nearby town, and
you sold me on God-fearing. You sold me at God-fearing.
Yeah, and
Really?
yeah. Anyway, I know way more about that show than I really ought to.
Is that the show that Lassie is from?
No.
Or did it just have the same kind of dog in the intro? That's what I need to know.
You know what show Lassie is from?
Lassie?
Lassie.
See, that's a show that I grew up knowing the references of. Never, I think it was never ever saw anything about it on TV.
I think that dog's name was like Rex or something. Some stupid generic dog name.
No, the dog's name was Lassie. All of them.
And the show started focusing more on Laura Ingalls, which was the middle daughter as she grew up, and she eventually became an adult because that show ran for so fucking long and got married, and the show was about her and her family.
So it was one of the first soap operas, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, that's enough about Little House on the Prairie.
All right, so folks, there are things called soap operas. Perhaps you remember your grandma watching Young and the Restless.
They still exist.
And they still exist. Young and the Restless and like Sands Through the Hourglass. So
these are the days
of our lives. There we go. The days of our lives, right? My grandma would watch those, and I found them once they started weaving what the fuck was happening in the grander structure. I watched some of them with her. There's a lot of like reincarnation and possession than you would think. It's wild. There's like magic and time travel and stuff. Did you know that?
I actually have a lot of respect for soap opera actors because those people work. they are.
I think they are actually at. If you've watched any of those, I think they're better actors than like 95% of actors.
Yeah, they are acting like literally as a like Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. So I have a lot of respect for soap opera actors and writers too. Like although like a lot of it's like really like zany and like hackneyed and like cheesy stuff, they are also writing 5 scripts a week.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild that they. Yeah, so kudos to them. That's right, Cat.
All right, so to get into Airwolf, the episode opens with Pilot McHale, man. In a helicopter, surprise, surprise, he lands on this beach where he is greeted by evil Cuban Armyman #1.
And evil Cuban Armyman #1, okay.
Yeah, evil Cuban Armyman #1. And he has a briefcase with $2 million in it, and there's some kind of like prisoner exchange going on here.
All right.
And
give me the cat and the $2 million.
Give me the
nobody gets hurt.
$2 million for the cat.
Sold.
And it's in exchange for I think 3 like political prisoners, 2 or 3, can't remember.
Yeah, it's 2 dudes. They're wearing generic like tunics, right? Look a little bruised up. Political
and well, wouldn't you know it? Another helicopter shows up and starts shooting at them, and lands, steals the money. They fly away. Evil Armyman is like, "How dare you?" And
McHale's
like, "Dude, I brought you $2 million. Give me my people back, and we'll be on our way." And he's like, "You gave me nothing. You brought a briefcase."
Evil Cuban man's like, "Looks like you brought me nothing. Now, get the fuck off my island." Flicks his cigar at his head.
And
and by the way, you want your guys back? This time is $3 million.
It's going to be $3 million.
I don't know why it became Scarface.
Well, and in a part that I find really funny is like the Cuban army like all point guns at McHale, and he's like, "Well, how about I just like slap the taste out of your mouth and take them with me anyway?" And evil Armyman is like, "Well, that would be foolish. I've killed men for less." But he points a handgun at him, and he's like, "Really? Do you want to die for nothing?"
Vaya con Dios, American. And then they kill him. He's just fucking shot dead. What? No? He just leaves?
No, they just let him go because they still want the money. So they let him go to give him the opportunity to get the money.
This
He,
is revolutionary leader, Cuban man.
yeah. Uh,
And he flies away, but wouldn't you know it?
he flies away, but he doesn't go back to base. And so we're introduced to
There's holes in his gas tank.
right. So he's forced to land. That's right. I forgot about that. So he's forced to land, and he doesn't end up going back to base camp, which is when we're introduced to our hero, Colonel Airwolf, or Captain Airwolf, Colonel Airwolf, Colonel Air Jacob Wolf.
Assistant sub-lieutenant or A/SLT.
Assistant Sub Lieutenant Air Jordan Wolf.
I'm not just a sub-lieutenant. I'm an assistant sub-lieutenant.
I'm also a Dom Lieutenant.
Looks like we'll work out just fine. Some jokes write themselves, folks.
I know. So anyway,
set him up and knock him down.
So anyway, Colonel Air Jordan Wolf goes
he
to
would
meet.
Be an AJ.
Yeah, Colonel AJ Wolf. There we go. Goes up to meet with Big Boss and Honey. And Big Boss and Honey.
They exchange some words.
They exchange some words, and Big Boss and Honey are like, what is McHale doing? He didn't come back. He didn't check in. Maybe he fucked off and stole the money. And
maybe he fell into the middle of the ocean.
And AJ Wolf is like, no, he wouldn't do that. I'm gonna take Airwolf and go find him. And I can't remember how, but he ends up tracking him down. I think he's like, oh, I think I know the one place that he would go if he was forced to land. And so he goes to the pub.
Somewhere in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Where is this? Is this still in Cuba? Somewhere.
This is still in Cuba, yeah.
Central. Oh, okay. I was gonna say some nebulous bar. He's just in a bar.
Yeah. And AJ Wolf just knows exactly which bar to go to.
Because there's 3 in Cuba.
Process of elimination.
Yeah. Dang it, he likes one of them.
So he goes and finds him, and he finds McHale sitting at the bar with 6...
This is so weird, man. This is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen on any of these shows. No, okay. So he walks in and he sees McHale.
With 6 full shot glasses of booze.
They're like, it's tequila something.
It's probably tequila,
and they're 6, yeah, and they're all in a line, untouched.
And he's like, "Oh, getting the party started, are we?" or something like that.
He's like, what are you gonna share with the rest of the classroom?
Oh yeah, that's right.
He doesn't actually say that. I don't know what the joke.
Insert
joke like that.
Yeah, that line would fit. And he's like, "No, I don't even drink them." He's like, "Well, why'd you order them then?" And he's like, "Well, because
when you're down on your luck.
How they do it in the movies is when you're down on your luck, you always go to a bar and order six shots." And I'm like, "Do they?"
What? There's that thing of somebody getting a rye or a rum, right? And going boom, another. And having sick, and then somebody comes in, whoa, slow down, cowboy. I've seen that trope.
Yeah.
Right. Inevitably someone comes and talks to them or something. I've never seen person down on their luck sitting at bar slamming 6 shots of tequila by himself.
Or
in a
just
movie.
Or just sitting there staring at 6 shots of tequila.
Or that that's so weird. That would be $150 at a club here in Canada in modern currency. Very modern. Man, I don't even know if I'm joking. Probably not that much, but
as someone who drinks hard alcohol and orders hard alcohol at restaurants a lot, if you want to double, a lot of the times it's going to cost you
$18.
It's going to cost you between $10 and $14.
Oh, 10 and 14?
I went somewhere recently and that's if you get what I get, which is I'm like, give me the cheapest whiskey you have.
Cheapest whiskey you have and the biggest glass you have.
No, small glass.
Small glass, so you can feel like you're a detective
A,
out
a,
of Leeds
a
sitting
double
at a bar.
a double Canadian shot, which is 1.5 ounces, so 3 ounces, which is in
Oh,
American measurements is a triple. So that in a short glass with ice. That's my go-to drink that I order if I'm not just ordering like a pint of beer.
I don't always get drunk and hit my wife, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis.
Joke's on you. I don't have a wife.
Joke's on you. I don't have a wife. That's code name for a leaking the lizard.
Well,
Time to go pee. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Just know I gave myself a fake mustache. I've got this Castro hat. I'm wearing
well,
these sweet Aves that are actually broken in 3 spaces and waiting to fall apart.
right. Anyway, so Mikhail is like, yeah, I'm not even gonna drink these. Do you want them? He's like, no, I don't drink either.
And by the way, since this has happened, he's like, oh, I'll have 1 beer. And you know what? Get him 1 too. So not only does he have the 6 shot glasses, I shit you not, he has a beer. And he got, so Mikhail orders both of them a beer, but both of them had just said that they don't drink.
That they don't drink, yeah. And then later on in the episode, we at the very end of the episode, we see them both drinking a beer.
Do
And
they?
yes, they are. And indeed, they finish their beers, and Mikhail is like, "Oh, let's get another round." And AJ Wolf is like, "Whoa, let's slow down. This is probably going to cost us like $30."
I know. And I was like, what? You can't get group shots for 30. But then I remembered that this is in the
Midway through the
80s.
episode, we see AJ Wolf drinking wine with Big Boss and Honey.
Okay, so he is, right?
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
is.
just crazy.
Yeah. So they have this
That's so
very
fucking weird, man.
they have this very like bizarre scene in the bar that is like completely
And they're not drinking the beers. And Mikhail goes, another round. And they're each past a second beer. So there's 6 like fucking tequila shots, and they both have like 2 beers. I I really want to know what the director was like snorting.
Now here's something that some podcasters that I've listened to have pointed out, and it's very relevant. If you are doing what we're doing, which is nitpicking a relatively minor thing in this 40-minute episode of television, it's because the rest of the episode has not held our attention enough to overlook little nitpicks like this.
Yeah, you've told me that before. That's what kind of takes like something like the A-Team, where you embrace all the stupid
Yeah.
plot holes, versus this where, oh, you've told me that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like
Yeah.
like who fucking cares or whatever. They writers had a completely different idea for who the characters are, but like nobody listening is going to fucking care.
Yeah. And so
I think it's amusing. Like I'm actually like super interested in what the fuck they were thinking with that. They could have just had him show up. Are they not allowed to drink on? No, because they do later. It has nothing to do with drinking. Is it that is the implication? This is the 80s.
most of the
Cuban,
time,
so it's poisoned, or it's
most
Cuban, so it's not any good. Like
I don't think so. I think it's just a wildly inconsistent writing.
okay, that's the most boring answer. I prefer aliens, but so
That's not tequila, it's alien love juice.
then I'll take 2. So you watched this 3 times,
I did watch this
and
3
you are
times.
being secretive as to why. We're not revealing it yet. One of the there were multiple reasons.
The main reason, I'll just say it now. The main reason why I watched this 3 times is because although the plot and the setup of this show is relatively simple, what is actually going on in this episode is extraordinarily convoluted and confusing. And so
I watched it and paid attention to it.
I watched this once last week. I watched it again 2 days ago, and then I just watched it again today. And I finally managed to, I think, piece together what's going on, but it still doesn't make sense.
So the rest of the episode, we're just going to summarize because it it's like dude talks to this guy, goes and talks to this guy, goes and talks to this family.
I can
But instead
I
of
can
just
run
doing
through this.
that, or instead of visiting scene to scene like we have thus far, I'm just gonna let he summed it up quite nicely. I'm gonna let Siege take it away.
I can run through this pretty quickly. So from the bar, they go to meet this old Cuban, like, revolutionary guy. I don't know who he is. And he has this young woman at his house whom I've dubbed Senorita Pantsuit.
She pulls him off, yeah.
And see, I thought that she was his daughter at first.
That's what I thought.
But she talks about her father is one of the
Oh,
people
and then
that
he's one of the
that they're trying to
captives.
save. And so the $2
Who is
million
this guy?
I don't know who this guy is. He's the guy who raised the money somehow.
Uncle. Oh, wait. He was talking about getting his brother back. So that this is her uncle. Okay.
Oh, okay. So he's the guy who raised the $2 million. And he mentions that there's so many mortgages on his house, which is a friggin' palace, I might add.
So many mortgages, and I'm like, have you thought about downsizing?
Yeah, move into a condo.
You
somewhere.
live in like a Colombian drug lord's like manor. Yeah. Like I expected there to be a jungle halfway up the mountain, and for him to have like tigers.
Yeah.
Am I
off camera?
There's like fountains and shit.
My headcanon is that off camera, there's tigers everywhere.
Right? And this is a level in Hitman. That's what we mean when we see this guy's got a mansion. And it's like, am I supposed to feel bad for Mr. I made sketchy amounts of millions and millions, but like now I'm running behind on my like my private islands like payments?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's like, well, we can't get the 3 mil that it's been raised to, but I know a guy.
Yeah, so Old Man and Senorita Pantsuit are convinced that McHale stole the money. And he's all like, why I oughta?
No, as my honor as an American, it's all right, listen.
And
turns
AJ
into like a Popeye character.
Exactly, yeah. And AJ Wolf is like, no, I know this man, and he was friends with your father, Senorita. There's no way he would do this. And they're like, we're not so sure. And he's like, let us prove it to you. And they're like, you know what? Okay. So they go to.
And they suck their dicks.
So they leave and they go to Big Boss and Honey and are like, or no. What they do is they go out in AIRWOLF to try and find the revolutionaries who have the hostages, because they're going to like try and save them. But what they end up stumbling across is like
weapons testing
going on by another set of Cuban revolutionaries. These ones.
So these are the actual revolutionaries, and the one we saw before was current corrupt tyrant.
Yes. And so these people, we find out, so they land. These people, we find out, are attempting to stage a coup. Like, that's their plan. And they're being supplied weapons, we find out, by Big Boss Man and Honey. And so Big Boss is like, shit, AJ, how did you get on this channel? Because he hands him like a portable phone, a big ass like, portable phone.
That's.
He's like, let me tell you, Colonel Wolffe, who I work for. And he opens this case up, and it's a portable phone. It's like it's an OG cell phone. Yeah,
it's a big briefcase that opens up like a James Bond device in the 50s.
Yeah,
and it's like a car, a satellite phone.
It's a satellite phone. Yeah. These things did
actually.
There's a
radar out. There's like a little radar, like This whole thing, this is like what the Matrix would be, like one of those props. If they made the Matrix in like the 50s.
Yeah. See, devices like this is clearly a prop, but devices like that did actually exist for long range communication during times of war.
Yeah.
So he picks up the phone and he's like, and Colonel AJ Wolf is like, all right, who is this? And it's Big Boss on the other side of the line. He's like, how did you get this number? And
Why are
so,
you on this frequency or blah, blah, blah?
yeah, something like that. And so it turns out Big Boss and Honey have been supplying weapons to this group to attempt to overthrow the current regime. And AJ
As
Wolf,
Americans are wont to do.
as they do, yeah.
Yes, yes.
And AJ Wolf is like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Washington Post unless you give me $3 million.
Cold hard cash.
And they're like, oh, geez,
$3 million.
okay. They agree to it pretty quickly. Although there is one line that I think is kind of funny where Honey is like, this is blackmail. And he's like, not until I ask for something. Not until I ask for something in return. Yeah, I thought it was a good line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so what he asks for in return, as I mentioned, is $3 million to use to give to Uncle and Senorita Pantsuit to get the hostages back. So far, so good. So far, so good. So what? Now, when he goes back to Senorita Pantsuit to give her the good news, he's like, she's like, well, thank you for everything you've done. We're going to take that money now, and we're going to handle this ourselves because we just want this to be a Cuban operation. And he's like, I don't think so, lady.
That's not how this works. Don't worry, my father and I will take this $3 million in unmarked US bills, and you wouldn't understand. It's a Cuban thing.
Yeah, and he's like, no, this isn't how this works. Like, I'm the one doing this. And they try to muscle him, like Uncle Guy
like,
shows up.
It wasn't a request.
And he's like, what do you think you're going to do? What, are you going to kill me? You're not going to kill me. And he's like, shit, he called our bluff.
Shit, he called our bluff. Kill him!
So he ends up...
Is this where he runs through the creek?
That's coming up. So he ends up... they end up being like, okay, well, I guess you got our balls in a vice here, Colonel AIRWOLF. I guess we'll leave it up to you. But just one thing. Do you think one of us can come along? And he's like, fuck no. Actually, I think he does.
And then he's
actually.
like, but what about this senorita?
He end up actually bringing Senorita Pantsuit along, and she goes off with McHale. She's paired up with McHale, and he talks about how he was like friends with her father and whatnot, and how he was the bravest man, bravest Cuban he'd ever met. And he's like, and I bet his daughter is even more brave or something. And he gives her a really creepy smile.
I hear his daughter's got quite the shapely posterior, and I must say, the rumors were true.
All I'm saying is she's really shaking my maracas over here.
And well, what's the age of consent in Cuba anyway?
So this is where AJ Wolf goes to the bar and drinks wine with Big Boss and Honey. And he's just hanging out. And for some perplexing reason, he gets up and he's like, hang on, I'm gonna go use the can. And for some perplexing reason, instead of doing that, he sneaks out the back. And I've watched this episode 3 times now. I don't really understand why.
What was that about?
So he sneaks off out the back to try and escape from the people who are helping him and supplying him the money. And then he
Right.
sees a station wagon full of pendejos who give chase, and we get a absolutely, even though they're in a station wagon, we get an on foot chase through like a swamp, and they they catch up with him. A fist fight ensues. They overpower him because there's like four of them and one of him, and they end up tying him up. And then we meet again Evil Armyman number 2, who was the one who had the mobile phone earlier, and he's like, what I am interested in, and we find out here that it was these guys too who stole the $2 million originally.
Yeah, because it's like, oh geez, I guess I know where it looks like these weapons cost about 2 million or something like that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that when we were first introduced.
It was
to him,
implied that the revolutionaries
were the ones who stole the 2 million.
Yeah.
And so what Army Man number 2.
Oh, it's funny. Technically, they stole from their own employer because
I'm going to get into this. Trust me.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get into this because this is like, I don't understand anyone's motivations in this show.
You watched it 3 times.
That's why I watched it 3 times. Is to try and figure out. And I figured out like the order of events and like what's going on, but it still makes no sense to me. So Army Man number 2 now has kidnapped Colonel Wolffe, and he reveals that he's also working in cahoots with Army Man number 1. They have like they used to be enemies, and he used to be my jailer, but now we have an understanding with one another. But it's like, okay, but you still ripped him off anyway. And you're working for Big Boss, and now you've kidnapped Colonel Wolffe, who is also working for Big Boss. Oh. And the money that you stole came from Big Boss.
Wait, literally everything. Okay, so it wasn't just me that thought that was
it's a very convoluted and perplexing scheme.
Yeah, because there's almost 3 factions. So there's 5 factions. One is AIRWOLF and McHale.
Yeah.
Other is Big Boss and Honeys, like off the books, like US.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So then there's daughter and uncle trying to get back their family.
Yep.
Corrupt Cuban tyrant in power and revolutionary Cuban.
Yeah,
those are the factions.
Those are the factions, yeah. And although one faction stole money from the other, it turns out they actually have a working relationship together and an understanding. And one of the factions is working for Big Boss, and AIRWOLF is also working for Big Boss, but revolutionary faction just kidnapped and stole money from AIRWOLF.
Which came from
Big Boss.
They've stolen his money twice.
Yeah.
Wait, if they stole, hey, hang on a second. No. So they're being supplied weapons for the revolution, but they also stole 2 million from Big Boss, and then the 3 million they want to.
I know.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, there could have just been. They could have kept this so much simpler and just had one.
Again, folks,
I'm more confused now that I know the truth. Like now that Siege has explained, like this is happening again. It just what did you say like 15 minutes earlier? Just because it's going to be more clear, but won't make more sense.
Yeah.
Now I know exactly what you fucking mean. Now that I
now know after watching the show 3 times what's going on, but it doesn't make it any less perplexing.
More
because
now that I know.
just because I know what's happening in the episode and what all the various moving parts are doesn't mean that all of those moving parts make any degree of sense, because they don't.
It has understanding what is going on has made the episode worse. We have run into this phenomenon before. Like, I got this weird like deja vu tingle in my brain where we've run across, like, the more we tried to unravel the plot of it, the more questions there are.
Yeah. So
Or
from
just
here,
plot holes.
it's just bullet holes. Plot holes the size of bullet holes.
Plot holes the size of bullet holes in your gas tank.
So Revolutionary Man is like, he's like, you know what I want, and now you know what I want from you, and he's like, my attack helicopter, and he's like, bingo, and he's like, well, you can't have it. And he's like, oh well, what if I just borrow it off of you for a few years,
like a couple years?
And he's like, long enough to overthrow like basically any country you want. And he's like, now we're talking. And he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Sure. Just take me over to my personal attack helicopter so I can hand over the keys. I left them in the ignition. And he's
One
like,
last ride into the sunset.
and he's like, okay. So they take him over to AIRWOLF, and he immediately just escapes and takes off in AIRWOLF. And it's like,
now that I know what's going on, that pisses me off more. Okay, so he's like, oh, I need to, like, I don't really remember the number. I just like, the pattern in my head. So I have to go and, like, people that have a pattern for their pin.
Yeah.
It just, and I just know that I just know the right way to, get the ignition going. And you're right. Why don't they just like beat him up, take the keys, and have the helicopter?
Yeah.
He literally has no weapons and they're holding guns to him. But somehow he's like, let me see old Bessie one last time before I say goodbye.
Yeah. So he escapes with AIRWOLF.
By being like, back away from the door. It's like pressurized or whatever.
Yeah.
And he gets ready and he like pulls on it and exaggeratedly like falls backwards, knocking over everyone, pointing a gun at him, and somehow jumps inside of it and starts it before they start like shooting. I guess it's bulletproof, by the way.
Yeah,
AIRWOLF is bulletproof.
That seems to be the implication, because it's shot at a lot in the next few minutes and doesn't seem to take any damage.
Yeah. So even the normally just glass, not bulletproof anything, the normal glass in a helicopter and thin frame to keep the weight down. Nope. This puppy is absolutely bulletproof.
Yeah.
When it comes to rockets, it has ways of dealing with that as well, which I'm sure is very interesting to people that want to Wikipedia how missiles work.
The helicopter in this show actually was flight capable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, they just took a kind of helicopter was it? It was apparently this is very random, but there was an idea to way back when to have this show exist in the same universe as Magnum PI.
Huh.
It's a fun little detail. So the flight-capable AIRWOLF helicopter was a cosmetically modified Bell 222, serial number 47085, sometimes unofficially called a Bell 222A. The helicopter was owned by Jetcopters Incorporated of Van Nuys, California. It was eventually sold after the show was ended and became an ambulance helicopter in Germany, where it crashed in a thunderstorm and was destroyed on June 6, 1992, killing all 3 crew members.
Shit.
The concept behind AIRWOLF is a supersonic armed helicopter that can be disguised as a civilian vehicle, a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's not reflected in this episode at all, but maybe in other episodes the thing can like shapeshift or something, and
maybe because it kind of looks like a news chopper.
It's a cool looking helicopter though. You know how I was thinking about
That's
this.
its Transformers name, Airwolf.
Uh, y- oh man, that would be so sick. Because Transformers, Hasbro does Transformers collabs every now and then. Like there's one named Gigawatt, which is a transformer that turns into the DeLorean time machine. There's
Pretty
Ectotron,
cool.
which turns into the Ghostbusters Ecto One car. There's one coming out that's a transformer that turns into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles party wagon,
Ooh,
which I'm actually going to try and track down.
I that's pretty cool.
I have I have Gigawatt, the DeLorean transformer.
Hmm.
So it would be really sick if they did something like that for Airwolf. I don't think they would because the show is quite obscure at this point, but
Because who's it for? But like that is cool. And you
me
wouldn't
and
even need to really
me
change.
and seven other people would be very excited.
You and like a bunch of like a handful of boomers just strolling up to the GameStop with your pre-orders.
Wearing an Airwolf t-shirt.
Yeah. Them wearing their faux military gear.
Yeah. I've got
The
a beret.
lady.
I've got a beret and
You've got
shades
a
and
beret, yeah.
and an Airwolf t-shirt on. I'm just like humming the theme song to myself.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, that
We can see the future.
that would be really sick. That's probably going to be me as an old man, honestly.
Probably.
I'm already starting to embrace some old man tendencies, like an old man watch that I
I
bought
never
recently.
thought he would do it, but now he has an old man watch.
I do. I got rid
It
of my
tells me the day of the month too.
I got rid of my Apple Watch because I've kind of been wanting to like disconnect a little bit from technology. Like not completely, obviously. Like I mean, we're doing the show and like I still play video games and all of that, but
Uh,
like
all
I
social media.
yeah, I just don't I was getting tired of just getting notifications on my phone because like or on my watch at all times. And
Most of them not really that important.
exactly, yeah. I remember uh, again, I'm going to sound like an old timer here, but like I kind of long for the days where like my connection to the internet was limited to when I would be at home and sitting down at my computer.
When your mom's not on the phone.
And then when I get up and walk away, I'm not on the internet anymore. Anyway, so I got rid of my
I do
smartwatch.
think run along now, boomer talk, but there's so many studies that show that the younger generations have depression and anxiety and body dysmorphia and all of that stuff exaggerated. And it's being linked to growing up always connected.
And lower attention spans.
That could be like it could be the causation like lower attention spans could be because of the the things we have to distract us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. 60 years ago, what did we have? A slingshot?
Yeah.
Siege and I would be like out in the woods, like firing pine cones at squirrels or something like that. That's
Yeah.
what we'd be doing 50 years ago. Same age as 50 years ago. Or maybe we'd be radio hosts, but like the crazy ones that like go out in the desert in a van.
Yeah, living that van life. We'd be and we'd be on
Living that
AM we'd be on AM radio too.
Oh, obviously.
Um, and then eventually, you know, we would find somewhere and we would like settle somewhere for a while and we'd set up a UHF like video signal
That's right.
for our like public access talk radio show.
That'd probably be what we'd be doing. And
Probably,
we'd be
yeah.
in Nevada for some reason.
But yeah, anyway, so wanted to disconnect a little bit but I like having a watch to tell the time so I don't have to pull my phone out all the time to see what time it is and then potentially get bombarded with notifications again. So I got an old man watch. It's just a plain watch. All it does is tell the time.
And in fact, that brings us to our first sponsor. Whoever made that watch.
This watch is actually made by Fossil, which is a fairly upscale brand of watches. I know because I asked someone who had done research a few years ago about what watch to buy, and I was like, "Oh, what brand of watch was that you got?" And they were like, "Fossil," and I'm like, "Sweet."
Me too.
Yeah.
I just go out and see where the sun is and haul my 40-pound sundial out of the shade somewhere into the light, and using the Pythagorean theorem, I then calculate.
You just go to a nude beach and build a giant sundial in the sand, and you just sit there all day.
That's how I know what time it is.
I'm a man of time. I'm a man out of time.
Whoa.
I'm a man part of time. What even is time? What is a man? Whoa.
Oh.
And you're like the way you're like sitting on the beach too is like you're just sitting there with like your legs crossed and like your arms back against the sand. You're leaning back, looking off to the side.
What were we even on about?
I don't know.
The show's about an attack helicopter.
Okay, so
someone in a bad guy helicopter fights at the end, and that's cool.
Okay, so after Colonel AIRWOLF escapes, McHale and Senorita Pantsuit fly their not attack helicopter back to the same beach as before to go meet up with
after Mr. Wolffe got his helicopter back.
Yeah, so they go to meet up with evil Cuban Armyman #1 again, and he turns on them. He's like, "Haha! Now we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you and keep the prisoners and take the money, and it's going to be we're gonna make Cuba great again.
We're gonna make Cuba great again with all this infinite money that's used to buy weapons to take out the current leadership, and then permanently in a state of turmoil.
And finally, in this
the
show,
American dream.
And finally, in this show about an attack helicopter, something hype finally happens. Just as like the evil Armymen are about to kill McHale and Senorita, AIRWOLF zips around the corner, and that hype theme song starts playing. I think I said the timestamp of it was like 39 minutes and 27 seconds. I'm like, finally, the show has actually become exciting at this exact moment.
And it's what you expect. So for me, it wasn't, like they blow up some packets on the dirt to show like a strafing run. Never actually shows anybody like die, just like run away from bullets.
Much like the A-Team.
Yeah, just run away from bullets. You disperse the enemies.
Yeah.
By making them scared of your firepower.
You disperse the enemies until they're in a vehicle, and then you destroy the vehicle.
Because it's okay to blow up.
And I mentioned
That's so weird. That is such a thing, though.
I've mentioned this about the A-Team, too. Like, you never see anyone get shot. But what you will see is, during a car chase, the bad guys will get into a car and chase them down. They'll shoot the tires out of, like, their car or truck, and the car or truck will then like flip over and explode.
Implying, yes, every single person in that vehicle died, but the implication of an accident that might have killed them, I guess, is a lot TV friendlier than
just outright shooting.
Outright just shooting people to death.
And indeed, this is what this show does too. So no
I
one
laughed so much. I'm like, oh, so no one's gonna die, and then like 30 seconds later, like revolutionary leader like is in a helicopter himself,
and AIRWOLF then blows that helicopter up
with him like in it. So I'm like, oh, I guess problem solved.
And when So the evil Cuban army guys like take off in this helicopter to go give chase to attack Airwolf, and during that commotion, McHale and Senorita get the prisoners and take off in their chopper, and then Airwolf destroys the enemy helicopter, and you think the day is won, but then all of a sudden some random fighter jets show up.
So this is like this is the Air Force. This is just them. You know how at the end of the A team, there's always like,
No, this is the Cuban Air Force who shows up.
why are they?
And
Why?
well, the rules of aerial engagement in this show apparently are just don't attempt any form of communication whatsoever and just start shooting. And that's what they do. They just start shooting at Airwolf. So Airwolf is like, okay, so he launches missiles and destroys them. And hilariously enough,
Why
one
would they
of
do
them,
that? And you're right. Good point. Why didn't they open a channel and they were like, you're above like Cuban
yeah,
airspace. You have to. Good point. Then they would have 3 more jets than they had yesterday, or than they have tomorrow.
six show up. And Airwolf ends up destroying them all. And hilariously enough, one of them tries to get away. One of them is straight up just like, fuck this, and turns around and tries to leave. And
And
Airwolf chases him down and
guns
blows
him
up.
down and shoots him in the fucking back. Which is that? Isn't that weird? It's like, oh, you all came out here to fuck me up, but I'm making sure none of you see your families again. He's leaving.
I'm like the guy's fleeing. Just let him go. Like I get that they started shooting at
Also,
you,
they were
so it's like okay, if they're still actively attacking you, like open fire, engage. But like the one guy who was like, no, fuck this. I didn't. I've got better things to do tonight than die. Who
it's the
decides to?
equivalent of chasing them down and shooting them in the back.
Yeah. And I'm like,
And
okay, well,
presumably he's just following orders, which are probably lawful. Like if you think about it, they probably shouldn't be. They don't have air clearance to
no,
be
they
there.
wouldn't. This is a stolen, like covert, like Black Ops military helicopter illegally in foreign airspace.
So people just actually serving their country properly,
Yeah.
they all just deserve to die.
Yeah.
In a helicopter, by the way, he can go fast enough. He can just leave.
Yeah.
He chose to kill 6 men. What? See, the more I actually know and understand and think about what's going on, I was like, there's some psycho shit in this.
Oh God. It's...
Six F1 Raptors. Add 6 more to my bedpost.
He's like flying in the helicopter. Gets out a knife and twirls it around and like makes like 6 scratch marks on the dash.
Every single time he like kills one, he's like, and like every 4 he makes like a cross through it, and you just see it, and it's like at 115. It's like going up the wall.
Yeah. Oh, and something you had pointed out off air was that the helmet that Airwolf wears is so
Thank you
fucking
for reminding
looking.
me. So he has a helmet. There's no it's implied that there's glass over the front, or is there?
No, there isn't.
Because they need to have pressurized, well, normally they would need to have pressurized masks.
And like the mouth plate of this helmet is like so comically small.
So it goes over his face. It just looks like a motocross helmet with the kind of, and like the front jutting out parts. Like it looks like a bad 3D print. There's just like this weird shitty plastic like prop job on the bottom. It looks like a shitty BMX bike with like the visor broken off. And
I could design a much cooler looking helmet than this.
I kind of think anybody could.
Yeah,
like,
anyone could, really.
Nothing could look uglier than that. And it's like nobody's thought at some time between episodes or seasons or whatever, they're like, why don't we put like some like metallic things over the he doesn't look as epic as he could, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not asking for like Batman levels of design, but like Speed Racer. He's got the helmet on. right? It's like this.
The
That's it.
the helmets and masks they wear in Top Gun, which are just regular like fighter jet like helmets and like oxygen masks and like visors.
Look cool,
They look
right?
cool. Just do something like that.
Yeah. So he has this BMX thing on his face with a bunch of shit on like the front that looks shitty, and I don't know. I couldn't unsee it. It's one of those things where I was like, oh, come on, use clay. Do something cool with it. Oh,
Yeah.
they should have got the designers from what's the Hasselhoff and the Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Uh, those guys could have made a cool helmet. It'd be like red and black and have like a faint glow.
So the episode ends with AJ Wolf and McHale at a bar celebrating, drinking beers, I might add. And McHale is like, "Oh, let's get another round." And he's like, "Man, these beers are going to cost us like $30." And he's like, "Oh, I don't think money is something we have to worry about now." So I guess they're just pocketing the $3 million that they got back somehow.
But that's no, so they're going to keep it and not give it back
To Big
so
Boss.
they're just stealing it from the people that they're working.
I guess. Again, folks, I watched this episode 3 times.
Kind of seems like Big Boss and Honey's agency is a waste of U.S. resources.
uh, well, and that's the episode. We get treated to a very, very, very long end credit sequence that takes, I shit you not, about a good minute or so before actual credits start appearing on screen, which is perplexing to me. You're going to see it at the end of this podcast because I'm going to insert it at the end of this
All.
at the end of this episode because there is one shot that is from the swamp fight scene where it freeze frames on something that is absolutely hilarious to me, so much so that I watched it like 5 times over.
And sent me a clip of him watching it, which I probably watched like a few times. That fucking freeze frame.
It does that very like old school TV thing of like freeze framing on a moment and like just displaying like static credits. But like the moment that they pick to freeze frame on is just so fucking hilarious to me.
I don't know. I find that really funny too. It's just you'll see it at
Yeah.
the end here, folks. But someone steps into frame and then he like reacts, and it's
And that's what they chose to freeze frame on.
the best parts of the episode.
Yes. Well, Cal, you just caught a random episode of Airwolf. Are you identifying as an attack helicopter again?
Airwolf is on. I can't get to sleep unless I watch my Airwolf. Yeah, I'm not. No.
No. No, me neither. Here's the thing, and I mentioned this earlier, but like the show has sick music. It has a great intro. I like the cast. The helicopter itself is pretty cool, but the show is just so boring.
I feel like shows from the past are more boring, but
I don't know, man. We had a lot of fun with that episode of the A-Team,
yeah.
which is from it. They ran at around the same time. I think they both ran from 83 to 87. So
they only have a budget of so much. I guess explosions.
and like you mentioned, I had said to you off air, for a show that's about an attack helicopter, there's a whole lot of scenes of just characters just talking about boring things for like way too long. And yeah, that's the biggest problem with this show is like it's boring.
Yeah, it's 40 minutes, 45 minutes of like people talking about mind-numbingly inconsequential banter.
Yeah,
And like 3 minutes of action.
and here's the problem too, is the show takes itself very seriously, and I think that's a huge problem. if it
Thank
had
you for
had
bringing that up. Yeah,
if it had had like a tongue-in-cheek kind of tone, like the A
like the
Team,
A Team.
I think the show would have been a lot of fun.
It would have been so much better if it was like a Snake Plissken kind of.
I mean, you got the guy from McHale's Navy as like one of the lead actors, and you don't make the show fun and lighthearted.
Mm,
Like, come on. I
I think a little bit of fun would have propelled it into one, been more enjoyable to watch, but would have made it maybe more prevalent.
yeah.
If the A Team was delivered with the how seriousness Airwolf is, I don't think it would be good. It'd be
I don't
kind of
think it
cringe.
I think it would have been forgotten, just like this show
Just,
mostly was.
but I think in substance, except for that tone, both would have failed or worked if
Yeah.
they had gone with a light one.
Yeah, and this show, despite lasting 4 seasons, struggled with the ratings, and it eventually they made it more action oriented in seasons 2 and 3, but then the show got canceled after season 3, and it was bought by another network for the 4th season, but the
One
other
of those.
network recast the entire show, and apparently that nobody liked the cast of like the last season, and then the show ended up being canceled. They basically kept it going long enough to be able to sell it into syndication.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I know what that is because of Mr. Sorry, Lieutenant Colonel Siege.
Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Hangtime Siege. Well, anyway, that was episode 91 of the Lasercomb podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 tier. You get a bonus weekly Patreon exclusive podcast, the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show. You also get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. There's other stuff. You also get commentary tracks once in a while. There's other stuff in the higher tiers. I'm toying with the idea of making it so at the $10 and up tier, you can actually pick the episode. So
Oh yeah.
we can finally. Posed that question on Discord or on the last episode of the podcast, and people on the Discord seem to be into it. So we'll see.
Okay. That's
And
what you get. You're buying the chance to give us a precise episode.
a precise episode, and well, and then we can truly, finally, put to the test of whether the old mantra of what has become like the long-standing mantra of this podcast is you just landed on a bad episode. We can finally find out if there's any like actual truth to that or not,
That's true.
or if
We'll
or if
put
the show is just bad.
we'll put the data in our. We'll do the statistics and find out if chosen episodes are better statistically than
We'll put it
the
through
random ones.
Chat GPT and see what it says.
It'll be
And
flawless.
the results I'll put through
All
Note
hail
GPT.
future president Chat GPT 8.
And the results I'll put through Note GPT and tell it to compose a song.
Basically, licensed to print money.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? It costs like millions of dollars per hour to provide the. Oh, geez, that much electricity.
I know, right? So, on the next episode of the Lasercomb podcast, I was originally thinking we would do something like The Incredible Hulk or Quantum Leap. We'll still get to those. But I want to jump back into Patreon picks for another episode or two because someone pitched us the show Thunder in Paradise,
Thunder in Paradise.
starring Terry Hulk Hogan Balea himself. This was a show that was on TNT, I believe, or TBS, one of the two. This was a show that was produced like in tandem with WCW. I gotta take these off now. It's like pitch black in here, and the lenses are polarized, so my screen looks weird.
There we go.
There we go. So, Thunder in Paradise, let's see, is an American action-adventure television series from the creators of Baywatch, which stars Hulk Hogan, Chris Lemmon, and Carol Alt. The first-run syndicated TV series originally premiered as a direct-to-video feature film in September 1993. Let's see. Thunder in Paradise follows the adventures of two United States ex-Navy SEALs, Randolph J. Hurricane Spencer and Martin Brubaker, who work as mercenaries out of their tropical resort headquarters along Florida's Gulf Coast. Using their futuristic, high-tech boat, nicknamed Thunder, they travel around the world fighting various criminals and villains. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this show, is because it's kind of fitting with our current theme of like old TV shows with characters that had sick vehicles. So we did the A-Team van.
Yeah.
Now we just got the Airwolf helicopter. Now we're going to be doing Thunder in Paradise's speedboat. What's next?
What's next?
Trains? Perhaps.
Trains?
Folks, if there's a show out there about sick trains, let us know. And I don't mean just like, I'm not talking like Thomas and Friends here or Shining Time Station. I'm talking like, what is the Airwolf of trains?
There we go. What is the Airwolf of trains? A sentence that has been uttered 1,000,000 times, if not. That's the most magician thing you've ever said.
I feel like I need to make a new intro for this show now and use that as a soundbite. What is the Airwolf of trains? Oh, God. Anyway, so to figure out what episode of
We
Thunder
were robbed of the Airwolf of trains.
Thunder in Paradise, we're gonna watch. I'm gonna hit screen share as always and go to the random number generator. All right, we're sharing the screen. And so Thunder in Paradise lasted 22 episodes. Ooh, Sting had a recurring role as Adam Hammerhead McCall.
Huh.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Jimmy Hart, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. So basically his WCW buddies guest starred a lot.
I had never watched any of this.
I remember because I was watching WCW Thunder on TNT in the TBS in like 97 or so. And I remember, I think Thunder in Paradise came on right after. So it was always something that I would see the intro for and then change the channel.
Yeah, one of those.
One of those, yeah. Anyway, so it has 22 episodes. So one random number between 1 and 22. Here we go, brother.
Only 22.
Yeah, one season.
Where it stops, brother. Oh, you're gonna get 16'd.
Endangered Species.
Oh.
Written by Michael Burke. And it aired on September 9th of 1994. Well, it's not a part 2, so I guess we'll stick with that one.
All right.
Wow, there's a surprising number of two-parters, considering the show only lasted 22 episodes. Huh.
People love two-parters. And make sure that you have to come back and watch it next week.
Speaking of which, that I think about does it for the podcast this week. We got to get out of here. So until next time, I have been one of your hosts, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Hangtime Siege.
And I'm Lieutenant Neo Mailman Cal.
Thanks for listening. We will Airwolf and Cub next time. I don't know.
Definitely not.
That didn't come out the way I wanted it to. I can do a better one.
That's what she said.
Yeah, there it is.